Hi, thank you so much for joining me, Joy.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Good. I'm glad that you're doing well and that you are fighting harder than ever, it sounds like.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. I've been a fighter for many years, but now things are hitting me personally. So it has a way of lighting that fire even more so.
Totally. So you want to tell us a little bit about your background before we go into the march?
Yeah, totally. People know me as Savage Joy. I've done a show for 4 years on YouTube. I started becoming politically involved with Bernie in 2015. As many people, I mean, I'd like to say it's been like, decades, but as many of people, it was with Bernard that woke me up. So I became politically involved in 2015. I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania area, so I just started, organizing and co-organizing rallies and marches and protests, and we have the Capitol steps right there for Harrisburg. So I was always like doing petitions and knocking on, politicians' doors. And, you know, um, one of the Harrisburg cops is like, we're going to have to charge you a second mortgage for being on these steps all the time. But it's convenient. Why not?
Yeah.
So I've actually organized or co-organized over 30 actions, be it Medicare for All, DAPL, uh, immigrant solidarity, Muslim solidarity, DACA, uh, you name it, just pretty much anything that I'm passionate about and anything that needs attention drawn to it. And through that process 4 years ago, I started my show. And it was interesting because back then there were not a lot of video podcasts at all, especially with women. So it's kind of exciting to see how much independent media has evolved um since I first started. But yeah, so I've always been a staunch supporter of Medicare for All. I worked in health insurance for over 10 years. A lot of it was through medical assistance, Medicare, Medicaid. So a lot of the insurance I was dealing with was for poor people, people of color, elderly people, disabled people. And when you see that so much, it really begins to make you aware of just how fucked up our system is. And for several years, I worked in the appeals and grievances department. And so what would happen is people would send in things that weren't paid that they felt should be paid. And I was like, okay, paid. Like, because when you're like 90 years old and you're sending me your $30 electric bill and telling me you can't pay for this doctor appointment, sorry, I'm going to find every freaking way I can to get that paid.
Yeah.
I have a conscience,
Yeah.
so it took its toll though. It really did, because sometimes, those I'd get QA'd on and they'd be like, why'd you pay this? You shouldn't have paid this. And I'd be like, oh, I thought it was blah, 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 and, eventually they caught on and I kind of lost my job. But I was like, well, I also saved a lot of elderly and disabled people, some grief. So, oh well.
Oh, ew.
Yeah, it was
What an
pretty daunting, but
honor to get fired.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was like either be able to sleep at night or, toss and turn but still have a job. Like, no, if you can do that job and without feeling something bad in your soul, then there's something wrong. There's a real lack of empathy. And, you know, um, so that kind of, really started getting me into Medicare for all. And then when Bernard came out and made it, such a central point of his campaign, and then, it became like a household talking point and things like that, it became a real passion of mine. Um, and this was just, I didn't know anyone who needed it, thankfully. But last year I ended up starting to need it myself. So it took on it evolved into something even greater. Than it was like, holy shit, like my life would be so different right now if I had Medicare for all. um I woke up one morning and I had very little eyesight, and I thought maybe I was, still kind of half asleep, or it was a dream. I wasn't sure.
It happened.
What's that?
I said it happened overnight.
Yes,
Wow.
literally. I went to bed, woke up, and most of my sight was gone.
Wow.
So I was like, I told my husband, I can't see. I don't know what's going on. I literally can't see. And I was supposed to be getting ready for work, so I started like putting my pants on, and I was like falling over because I thought I was putting my leg in the pant leg and I wasn't. And it was just, oh my god, what's going on? Is this like a stroke? Like what is this? So my husband took me to the emergency room, and we had to go like an hour away because there's an eye clinic there. And they diagnosed me with something called myopic degeneration, and or excuse me, yeah, myopic degeneration. It's not macular degeneration. It's very rare. It's much worse.
Wow.
And they said, this is permanent. So I, at that point, was, my life changed that day. It was, holy shit, like most of my eyesight is gone, and they're telling me it's not coming back. And it didn't. And it's gotten worse since. So it is a progressive, disorder. It is not hereditary. It's very, very rare, especially people as young as myself. And, they can't attribute it to anything, which is what's so scary. It's like, did I do something to bring this on? No, not at all.
Wow.
And but as rare as it is, when it does happen overnight every time. So, especially at first, I was so scared to go to bed because I'm like, if I wake up, I may have no sight. When, it was like going to sleep was PTSD. Like, what now? What? So
Wow.
it became horrible. And, this started, I had to get eye injections, which, yeah, it's even worse than it sounds. So I was getting those in each eye every 30 days. Each one was $12,000.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So you figure 2 eyes, that's 24,000, 12 months.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. What most people, some people make in a year, you were paying
Yeah,
per month for this treatment. Oh my.
absolutely.
Ugh,
And that they were like, I couldn't go to work. I couldn't freaking see.
sure.
So, and then it got to the point where they were saying, um, you know, these are being denied because your disorder is so rare. They're questioning it, the insurance company. They
Oh
don't
my,
know that it's medically necessary. And I said to my specialist, is this some kind of kink I don't know about? Who the hell would choose to get eye injections? Who?
serious.
So it got to the point where they were like, you either have to sign this waiver that you will be responsible for this $24,000 for this visit, or you have to wait to get this appeal to go through. So basically, what they were telling me, now the eye injections does not mean that it brings sight back. What it means is that it helps stop it from getting worse.
Mhm.
So what they were saying to me is a hostage situation. You can keep calling out of work and without any pay, because I was with a temp agency.
Okay.
So
Not the insurance job you were referring to before. You had already lost that job because you were helping people, right?
right,
Right.
right. So I was on my husband's insurance. So I
Okay.
had no sick time or anything being a temp.
Hmm.
And it got to the point where they were like, if you want this paid for, you got to pay it for yourself. So I had to just keep calling off of work without pay until I could get the eye injection and have at least some semblance of sight,
Wow.
to be able to do my job. And, they put up with it for a little while anyway.
Hmm.
Um, but when you're a temp, well, then I became a contractor at a job, and that's when my eyesight got really bad. Like the left one just stopped seeing light, period.
Oh boy.
They just stopped eye injections and everything in the left one.
Wow.
And um the job I was contracted through, they let me go because I went from typing like 50 words a minute to like 20 words a minute with typos.
Yeah.
And it's perfectly legal, because I was contracted. Whereas if I was physically disabled, declared disabled, they would be obligated by law to give me a bigger keyboard, a bigger monitor, things like that. But because I wasn't, I mean, now I am, but I wasn't then, they just fired me.
Oh my God.
Um,
Had you begun
so
that at the time?
what,
For disability?
what's that?
I said, had you begun that process at the time applying for disability?
No. Oh
No, no.
God, no. I was still in denial. I was like, I can
Oh,
work, whatever. Or like, I'll learn how to hide it from people. That was my thing. I was like, when people would walk up and I would see them, like feel someone walking up aside of me, I would just be like acting like I would look at paperwork. I wouldn't let people see how slow I typed and
uh-huh.
stuff like that. I would just convinced I could hide it.
Sure.
Because it's like a death. It really is. You have those stages of grief.
Mm,
And I was just in serious denial. My sight's gonna come back. I can still work, whatever. They don't know shit. They said this is rare, so they don't even know.
yeah.
Um, and so, my specialists were telling me apply for Social Security for months and months after I lost my job before
Hmm.
I gave in. Because I
Uh-huh.
thought once I fill this out, it's solidified. I'm
Yeah.
admitting I'm disabled. I'm admitting this is permanent. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to go through. And that was, God, that was a process. It starts next month. Finally, I had to appeal it. As most people, it was like almost a 2-year process,
Uh,
between it was just horrible.
you
And
had private lawyer to even begin it. Is that correct or no?
No, I did not, thankfully, because my doctors, I had 2 eye surgeries. I had, I literally sent in over 100 pages of documentation of
Wow.
all of, even x-rays of the scar tissue of my eye. I mean,
Wow.
anything beyond what they asked for. Over
Mhm.
100 pages for months and months. And then it became over a year that I'm doing this. And then they're still saying not enough info, not enough info. And my
Mm.
one doctor just got so pissed. He called them and he said, you know what? I'm a specialist of joy. And you know what? This is ridiculous. She deserves Social Security. You're making her life hell. And he just like went bananas. And I was like crying because I was laughing so hard. And then next thing you know, here comes my caseworker. Oh, we have good news. I was like, he didn't tell you anything new at all. I mean, going blind should be one of those things that it's like, if you can't see, you should be approved. It shouldn't be like this. Like, I literally can't see. What kind of job do you want me to do?
Right. Oh my God.
Yeah, so it was hell. So finally, my Social Security starts next month.
Oh.
And I am working with some blind associations in Pennsylvania to get me back into the workforce through organizations who will provide the correct blind accessibility electronics that I need to be able to do that. Which is by choice. You certainly don't have to do that, but I was like, I used to complain about working so much, but now that I can't work, I'm like, oh my God, I want to go back to an office so bad. Like, you become so like just cabin fever, you're like, oh my God, like I just sit in the house all day. I need to get out and socialize. And so it's actually kind of interesting all this happened during COVID because it kind of gave me a chance to deal with the fact that I couldn't go out on my own anymore. Like, I can't drive, I can't, I have to use a cane.
Mm.
So things are very different now, but it was like, I would think it was kind of easier to adjust to since everything was, so weird the past year and a half anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's one upside of COVID,
Yeah.
right? That's good. Oh my goodness. That sounds like such an epic battle that I mean, just on every level with the bills and the physical drain of it all, I'm sure was extremely painful. And yeah, and then so when did you wake up that morning and find your eyesight was gone? And then I want to know like how long between then and you getting disability.
Well, when I woke up, that was 2019, and my disability starts next month.
Okay, wow. So yeah, so a good 2 years. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not
And
right at all.
that's so common. Like, that
Sure.
is so common. But then, they didn't give me any back pay,
Yeah.
and which I was kind of counting on. I was like,
Yeah.
well, at least I'll, because you always hear people say, well, you get, it's retroactive to the date you became disabled, where they're trying to tell me I didn't become disabled till December, as in a few months ago.
Oh no.
And
No, no.
then they make you wait 6 additional months from the date you became disabled to receive a first check. So I
Wow.
get no back pay. They say I became disabled literally 6 months ago, even though
Mm.
I couldn't work for the past, 2 years. And I don't start getting any disability till next month.
Oh,
So, I am fortunate in the sense that my husband has a full-time job, and it just makes me think about what about single parents? What about like this system is archaic. It's disgusting. That doing that to people is violent. Saying you have worked full time for 25 years, but we're just literally going to drag this out so you don't even have a penny to live on. And also, you don't get anything retroactive. So, never mind the 401k I had for 15 years that is now gone. Things
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah.
it's so messed up. And all would have changed so much of that.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I mean, thousands of dollars in medical bills. I mean, how can I not have that? I have Highmark insurance, which is supposed to be a good insurance.
Mm.
But it is $5,000 deductible. Well, my eye injections, even with insurance, they were not $12,000 a piece, but with insurance, they're over $1,000 a piece.
Oy.
So 1 month, you're still paying like $2,000 plus the eye visit, plus the x-rays they give you, plus the drops they give you. And then
Oh.
I had 2 eye surgeries and stuff. So, I mean, I just couldn't catch up. Like, what am I supposed to do? It's like, it's a hostage situation. So you're horribly depressed and have wicked anxiety because you're going through the trauma of becoming disabled, and then
Sure.
it's just completely exacerbated by having to call the health insurance company 20 times a day to
Mhm.
check on appeals, or having to send more shit into disability, or anything like that. It just exacerbates it. It
Mhm.
is, I mean, I cannot think of a time that was that I mean, I was just like, I hope I don't wake up in the morning. I mean, it was just,
Oh.
it was just hell, just absolute hell. And you feel like a burden, you know what I mean? Because like now it's like I can't do anything without saying to my husband, here, let's go to the park, but you're gonna have to walk me. You know what I mean? Like I'm a baby or a dog. Like you're gonna have to, grab my arm and walk me around the park. And you lose so much of your individuality. And it's rough having to acknowledge that you've always been such an independent and so
Mhm.
strong-willed, and if you want to do something, you just fucking do it. But
Right.
now it's almost like you have to ask permission for things. Can you take me here? Can you come in the store with me? um
Mm.
Things like that. So it's a lot. It's a lot to handle for anyone. So
Right.
my heart goes out to anyone who's dealing with becoming disabled or any kind of sickness, or watching a loved one go through it as well. It's horrible. It's very, very traumatic.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Wow. You are extremely strong to take that and turn it around and then do something good in the world. So tell us a little bit about the march that's coming up and how it's blowing up, and what, like, sort of how it started.
Well, it's a Medicare for All march, and we started with it in DC. um Gentleman named Sharif and Ricky, um, who are New Yorkers, said, you know what, we need a Medicare for All march. Let's do it in DC. So I saw their post and they tagged me in it, and they're like, Joy, will you join us? And I thought they meant help organize. And I said, okay. And I was like, all right, count me in. And they're like, really? Oh, okay. I thought you were just gonna share the post. I was like, oh well, oops. Um
Good for
but
you. Move over, boys.
I'm here. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. So it just, they're great, great guys, great organizers. Um, and we hit it off, and we were just doing Washington, D.C., and then we were promoting it and tagging people and sharing the posts. And then next thing you know, California, can we do one? And New York, can we do one? So now we literally have 21 across the country, and more are being added. So, I mean, if you go to m4all.org, you can see the list of them. We have like California, 2 in California, Albuquerque, Atlanta, Michigan, DC, New York, New Jersey. I can't even think of them all. I mean, they're just literally all across the country. And these are people who reached out to us. We're not reaching out to people necessarily and saying, hey, do you want to do a march there? These are people who see what we're doing and they're like, you know what? We need to do that in our city too. And it's so incredible because, me, Sharif, and Ricky, we are not an organization. We are individual activists, as are all of the other people who are helping us organize. All of us are parts of organizations. We have some MPP, some DSA, some, Green Party, whatever, but we are not an organization. So it shows, that's one of the things I'm so damn proud of, because it shows that real activism, organic activism is not about an organization. That's not what it's about. It's about people who have never met coming together to do something to help humanity for no other reason but selflessness and passion and empathy. That's what it is. And that's what's so beautiful about it. I'm so proud that we're not an organization. And some of the people who are co-organizing have never even organized. Wow. So that's what's so impressive, because we're doing this thing that became this animal that's like literally nationwide. And like Sharif, who is he and Ricky started it all. Sharif has never even organized before. Wow. And now he's started this thing that has just grown. So, many of us are from Force the Vote, who are involved. And most people know me from the town hall. But I'm sorry.
I said you were excellent on the town hall.
Oh, thank you so much. Really. That changed my life. It really did. I mean, I had never said the word disabled, referring to myself, ever. And until that speech. And, I received hundreds of messages after that, just for days, about people sharing their own stories with me. And I get very, very, very upset when people trash Force the Vote, because for some of us, like, this is life or death. And it's very privileged to say, oh, just wait. And no, we're holding people accountable to do what they said they were going to do. Yes. This is not forcing anyone to do anything. This is us holding people accountable. I've interviewed AOC. She told me to my face, she's going to fight tooth and nail Medicare for all. I met Rashida Tlaib and cried as I told her my story, and she held my hands and hugged me like over and over. Wow. I've had Ro Khanna on my show 4 times. And he's told me, oh, Medicare for all, we need it. These are people who, people like Rashida, AOC, Ilhan, they campaigned as activists. Yes. Where are they? Where are those activists? Because that's what we need.
Absolutely. And you know, it's like that when AOC and I think Bernie also went to a strike in New
Yeah.
York. Yes. And it was for the McDonald's strike, right? The $15 an hour. Is that what it was? 5 for 15?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's insane to me that that you think it's okay to go there when you just, essentially let the $15 minimum wage, not pass in the coronavirus bill. I mean, that's ridiculous to me. It's ridiculous to me that as politicians, you would even think to go. I mean, like, sure, like, go make a speech, show your support and whatever. But like, we need you to fight in the job that we elected you to. That is the whole point. We cannot. And then she put out a video, a live stream or something, and she was talking about. I mean, AOC has said this a couple of times via tweet and everything, but she was talking about like your activism makes this possible and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, stop. Like, that is such obvious lip service at this point. Like, we like, it seems to me, not to shift the subject, but it seems to me that the only way to get these people to care about your issue is to run up the Capitol, right? I mean, like, they're still
Or
talking about,
primary their asses.
or primary their ass. And and I hope that the people that I'm helping to promote right now, some really excellent candidates get in there and start pushing the Progressive Caucus to do what they're supposed to do. I mean, this is ridiculous at this point. Yeah, I could list things all day about what's wrong with this freaking country, but
Well, it's kind of, I always think about like Elizabeth Warren, who I would love to just like vomit on. She, she comes out with these tweets that's like, we need to forgive student loan debt. And I'm like, okay, listen, bitch. When you were running, you said $50,000 up to $50,000 per household. And people, it was still income eligible and things like that. But now that Biden said he's not going to do it, now you're just so amazing and all for it and putting out this tweet. And then everyone in the comments is like, yes, queen. Oh my God, you're so amazing. Yes. And it's like, seriously, can you just not praise people? How about you just look at their past? She just ran a year ago on something completely different. Like, Chuck Schumer is promoting canceling student debt. Freaking Chuck Schumer. That shit's not going to happen.
No way.
I mean, come on.
Fucked over the $15 minimum wage because he's the one that had it put in the bill, and then he's the one that got it sneakily taken out. He did both of those, signed off on both of those things. Thanks a lot, Chucky. And you know what? Like, it's insane to me. Like, I know a little bit about modern monetary theory because of the panel that we just did, and I've been trying to learn a little bit more about it as we're working with real progressives to do these panels. But it sounds to me like the government, and I don't even think you need to know MMT to understand this. I mean, like, I think the government already paid all of everybody's student loan, right? So like, you take out a loan to pay your bill, right? All those bills have been paid. The government could just say, hey, don't worry about it, because the government can make money at will, right? So there is no cause. There's no need to tax people to support this. There's no need to, endanger a budget or whatever your worry is. The point, you can literally just sign an executive order, cancel student debt, and it wouldn't cost you a freaking dime because this money has already been spent.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. It's just like when the Pentagon loses bajillions of dollars, but suddenly it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Nothing has come of that. It's not like they needed to cut here, there, and everywhere to, make up for that lost money. It doesn't fucking matter.
No.
It's incredible. And my theory is one, and especially, Joe Biden is an imperialist. And I think one of the reasons, student debt is and free college is being fought against is because what's one of the reasons people go into the military? Free college education.
Excellent point.
You get that, and it's like, who wants to go do that now? Who wants to, you get a federal job guarantee. Now who wants to go in the military? You get Medicare for all. Now who wants to go to the military?
Yep.
These are, I think, I really do, I've thought about this so many times. I really do think it comes back to that.
Absolutely. I mean, if the military industrial complex is, if not one of the most major influences in our government policy, then that makes all the sense, because you need someone
Absolutely.
to shoot. Yeah, absolutely. It's sick.
It is. It really is.
Yeah. Jordan Sheridan calls it what the United Corporations of America, right? I mean, yeah, that's
pretty
accurate.
Much.
Pretty much. Oh my goodness. So we had talked earlier online about that Hill article about Alyssa Milano thinking about running for Congress. Did you want to comment on that?
Oh, how long is the show? So, I co-wrote a resistance parody book, and it's called Yes Queen Chronicles.
Nice.
And I co-wrote it with Pat Cody, who was Peter Douche and is Pat the Burner, Nate Sliver. So we co-wrote it together, and Alyssa Milano was one of our main characters. She is egregious. She is the epitome of everything wrong with celebrities and this hero worship of, and these women who are like, me too, I'm so supportive. And then you realize, like, they're only supportive when they don't have a D next to their name, and just complete hypocrites. And it's funny because Rose McGowan, who is basically the biggest Alyssa hater in the world, she saw my post, and she messaged me today and said, she said, please run against her. I was like, oh my God, that'd be rad. She's like, please just run against her. And, wrote this long thing about, how she feels if she would run. And, Rose is just, one of the most epic human beings in the incredible. I mean, she's just amazing. And we owe a lot of the transparency to Rose McGowan, because she was the first person to come out publicly and be like, she's a lie. She is a lie. Yes. Alyssa's husband works for like pedos. Like their entire organization is disgusting. She's just an awful person. It's funny because a lot of the people who read our parody book think we're making some of this stuff up, and it's not. Like, you can literally Google pretty much everything in our book, and you'll find out it's pretty damn real.
Wow.
Especially with Alyssa. Like, some of the shit, I don't know, like, I can't tell you what I wore 2 days ago, but I will remember an article I saw 5 years ago about Hillary Clinton, and I will recite it to you. It's like certain things, my mind is like a steel trap. And when it comes to Alyssa Milano, I was like, this is easy. I'll take her. I'll do this one. But yeah, we also have Nancy Pegosi, Joyanne Greed, Soledad O'Lyon, Nira Tantrum. Oh God, I can't even think of them all. But yeah, the protagonist is Nina Burner. And she, Miss Nina, had Pat and I on her podcast and to discuss it, and we had such a great time. So there is, a lot of laughs, and we're told it's very cathartic, because yelling at shit libs doesn't really do anything.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they just kind of like, they're always right and you're racist and sexist regardless. So, looking at it from a humorous perspective can be very healing. Pat and I both felt very, cleansed in some ways by the time we were done. And it was interesting because I was going blind while we were writing it. So it, I would have to write my parts through dictation, and he would have to read everything back to me so that we could edit that way.
Mhm.
So it was pretty unexpected. But thankfully, we got our process down, and we're able to, complete it and publish it and everything. So it's something we're both really proud of.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to read it.
Well, for anyone listening, it's at savageandpat.com. And you could see like all kinds of fun pictures with like, like some great people holding our book who have loved it, like Rom Placone, Justin Jackson, Graham Elwood. Like it's always cool when like comedians say they love your book. It's like, yes, woohoo.
And I don't doubt that it is everything they say it is, because you're wonderful, fierce, and hilarious. And so is
Thank
Pat.
you.
Absolutely. Um, yeah. So we could go back to Rose McGowan for a second. Um, I love her. I just finished her book recently. And have you read it? Brave?
I listened to it on audio. Yeah.
So did I.
She's awesome.
She's fabulous. And I completely recommend that you listen to it on audio instead of reading it, because she reads it herself. And I'm sure it's so much better. I was struck by how much she has been through and how strong she is to have even been able to put it down in words, because I mean it's a lot. And it's compelling, and she says it so well, and she says it so fiercely and unapologetically, and she's funny.
Yeah.
That I think that that's one of the most, as you were saying, one of the most important things that we can do as as leftists, as people interested in politics, as people dealing with the realities of this world, is to just be able to temper it with humor and yeah, humor and love and compassion.
Absolutely.
It's the only thing that keeps me sane throughout the day, that's for sure, is to
Yeah,
just
absolutely. I mean, if we don't laugh, we'll cry. That's what we said on our book. If we don't laugh, we'll cry.
Mhm.
It's really is. It comes down to that.
Yeah. And sometimes I do both, whatever.
Yeah, same. Well, I think actually what we put in our book was, if we don't laugh, we'll cry, parentheses, even more.
What? Well said. And I saw Rose on I can't remember which podcast it was, but she was making the rounds recently, and I saw her on one podcast. And then she told, right at the end of it, somebody said, oh, you're so feminist or something like that, or like you're such a great feminist, something like that. And she said, I no, I don't consider myself a feminist. Like, I'm more of a humanist. And I don't like, I don't really like labels. And she seemed to be interested in, like, you know uh trying to unite the gender spectrum a little bit in that conversation, which I thought was totally admirable. What do you think about that issue,
Yeah,
if you
I
have?
totally agree with her. I would never call myself a feminist, because when I think of feminist, I think of pink pussy hats and Hillary Clinton buttons, even though she's married to a rapist, and complaining about Trump, even though they're campaigning for Biden, and just all that hypocrisy. When I hear someone say feminist, I just automatically, like, I'm like, okay. So I like the idea of I consider myself a humanist as well. And I think it's so much more important to be a humanist because it's all encompassing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I support, intersectional feminism. I support the gender spectrum, um, and you know, all sexualities. But I I do call myself a feminist, and I'm kind of vehement about that, because I feel that even though going, from this point onward, we are a culture of many genders. But before that, and it's true that it's like, you know, the version of history that they tell you in textbooks is not always accurate, right? So the history that we've been told growing up is that there were two genders, right? And that's how we look at history. And I think that it's valuable to in uh in talking about it, to kind of say, okay, the things that are generally associated with women are a culture, or female culture, and the things that are associated with men are male culture. And to be okay with the fact that there are some men in female culture and there are some women in male culture, and it's not exactly, solid, it's fluid. Exactly the way that, living in different national cultures, right? I mean, like, if you're like Cuban American, for example, or something, you live sort of half in one culture and half in the other. And I definitely feel like that we have that relationship with gender as well. And I think that, we can, maybe when we start to talk about it in that way, feminism can be the defense of the female culture, because that's essentially who is being negatively affected, right? So, like, you had a job in healthcare, so that all nurses, all, a lot of the women in that field get paid a lot less than the men in that field, and nurses are way undervalued compared to doctors. And that there are very feminist reasons for that. That's a feminist history. And we do ourselves a disservice if we forget that. So I like to think, but there are male nurses too, there are trans women nurses, there are, all things, and they're equally as affected by the patriarchy, right? So I really feel like, I love having this conversation, and I'm really glad to hear your perspective. And I just want to bring it up with like everybody, like I just want to get us talking about it again, because I feel like the Me Too movement really took us, it took us in that direction. And now that, yeah, going back to Melissa Milano, like, let's full circle this whole fucking thing. um right? Because Alyssa Milano is exactly like you're right, like exactly the perfect uh example of like sort of white the feminism that we, you know, like the shit lib feminism.
The one with the asterisk and the,
Right,
the carrot and, the but only if.
right. And it's insane. I mean, like she literally was like, you have to believe every woman. I remember this, or I remember it during the Christine Blasey Ford. She was so into, she showed up to the fucking trials, I believe.
Mhm.
Like, why? But okay. And then later on, when Tara Reid and Biden's other accusers started coming out, she's like, well, we can't believe all women. Are you kidding me? No.
And she went and deleted all of her Kavanaugh tweets. That's how she knew she was wrong. She literally deleted hundreds of Kavanaugh tweets because
Yeah.
she knew she was a damn hypocrite.
Oh
And,
my.
I had Tara Reid on my show
Yeah.
like a month or two ago. And God, that was hard.
She
And
just
that's when,
read it
what's
yet, but
that?
I said she wrote a book too recently that I want to
She
read. I have.
did.
Yeah.
And you know what? She's going to be speaking at our California, LA March.
Oh,
Um,
excellent.
for essentially, if you don't have health insurance and you're dealing with trauma like sexual assault or what have you, the implications of, on your mental health, how that affects you, not being able to go talk to someone because you
Absolutely.
don't have health care. So it's not going to be, about Joe or anything per se, but she's going to be speaking on behalf of, the millions of women who have unfortunately been in that situation. But when I had Tara on, and that was the first night that Rose McGowan PM'd me, and she's like, "You're amazing," and I was like, "What?" Wait, what? Is this like the Rose McGowan? But she's very good friends with Tara.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's how she heard of me, because of my show with her. But yeah, I mean, both of them, and honestly, that's why I decided to write the book, the parody book, because of the treatment I was seeing with Tara.
Wow.
It was literally then that I hit Pat up and I said, you know what? I cannot watch these shit libs selectively say, blue rape is okay, red rape is wrong anymore. Tara's getting death threats. She's getting, you got people running for Congress saying things like, well, Joe has a lot more rape to do to catch up to Trump, things like that. I mean, it just,
Jesus Christ. That's not cute. That is not cute at all.
absolutely disgusting. And so I hit up Pat and I said, I need, he had written the book about Peter Douche. And I said, I need an outlet. I cannot watch this anymore. I can't. It was just, I thought about Tara every day. I just, and I still do. I just worry about her. And I mean, she lost her job. She had to move to a different state. This
Yeah.
is real. And she gets, the thing is, people lie about her. They're like, she came out with the story to hurt Joe's campaign. She came out with the story before he was running. Get
Yes.
your facts straight.
Yes.
It's
Okay.
horrible what people have done to her.
It's corroborated by other people. That video of possibly her mother came out on Larry King. Like, I mean, it's just how much more circumstantial evidence do you need? And doesn't it make sense to you? I mean, just seeing Biden, I saw a Jimmy Dore episode the other day where he was talking about Biden saying to like a 12 or 9-year-old girl, I can't, it was a very young girl in the audience. Look at that girl with her barrettes over there
Oh
sitting.
yeah, it just happened last week.
Yeah, that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, doesn't it fit his character? Like, aren't you seeing the connection here? And like, people who are sexual assaulters are also people who are attracted to power, right? And there are people who are really interested in I don't want to say like dictatory, but like, I mean, look at everything that Biden has said this entire, like, ever since he announced that he was running. He said, vote for me or get the fuck out. He said,
Yeah.
it's me or the highway. I'm winning this shit and you're going to follow me. And that's it. And how is that not exactly like Trump? I don't know.
And he also said, if you believe Tara Reid, don't vote for me. So guess what? I fucking didn't.
Good for you.
I mean, I had a gentleman on my show 2 weeks ago. His name is Professor Zenkus.
Sure, I'm familiar.
He and he'll be speaking at our New York March because he did a TED talk about inequality. So he teaches at Columbia and he specializes in sexual assault, things like that. And he said, this isn't about whether or not I like Biden. He grooms kids. He grooms kids. I mean, you can see it. The patting of the hair, the rubbing of the shoulders, do you date? Do you have a boyfriend when they're like 6 years old? Things like that. That is grooming. And Professor Zenkus said, I work with a colleague who said, why do you trash Biden? He's a Democrat kind of thing. And then Zenkus sent him a video, a compilation of Joe with all of his, kids and everything. And the guy said, I am disgusted. People don't want to. Cognitive dissonance is a cancer and Dems love it.
Oh yeah. And the thing is too, though, like, we have to, going back to feminism for a second, we have to acknowledge as a society that this for a very, very, very fucking long time was normal. Okay. It wasn't until maybe this century or this past century that we even started talking about it in this way, that we even started listening to women at all about this kind of thing. And we need to understand that even within, women identifying women, that there is still, there is still this level of acceptance that we have to fight, because it's not okay. It's not. And it amazes me, like, how many people, in my daily life that I talk to that have said they've been Me Too'd and just thought it was normal.
Yeah. And oh my God, yeah.
That's where we're at. And it's not fucking okay. It's not.
No, I mean, reading some of the Me Too things, I was like, that happened to me. I didn't know that was wrong. Like, I knew I didn't like it. Like, I was an assistant manager at a drugstore, and my boss would like brush up against me, like while walking behind me, even though there was a lot of room. And I'm like, I always thought, wow, he's a klutz, and I was like, then reading Me Too stories, I was like, oh my God, like, he was not a klutz. Like, he was doing that. And I guess I feel dumb even saying that, but you don't, you're programmed not to suspect things like that.
Right. Because yeah. I mean, like, society, right, trains men to think they have ownership over women bodies. And I am speaking in general terms right now, again, male culture, female culture. But that is the historical assumption, that men have ownership over female bodies, and that women accept that. And that, like, we aren't even, like, I'm just thinking in my own life, like I had a boss, for example, who was just, like, not exactly a bad guy. He was nice, and like, he would talk to, his female employees, like, in a chummy way and whatever. but he'd had his moments where he would say creepy stuff. He would brush up against you. He would look down your shirt. I mean, he would say things like, I wish you dressed nicer, stuff like that. And he didn't take it any further than that. He was very, fair with you otherwise, right? But that's still unacceptable. That's still a level of patriarchy that we really need to start discussing more, for sure. And it's not nitpicking, because again, when we're talking about sexual assault, we're talking about any kind of any kind of trauma, any kind of issue with your mental state. It is connected to your body, right? And it causes you to be ill. I believe that it causes you to be ill if you are in a mental state and you're not dealing with it properly, or you're suppressing it. It causes your body to react. So, and I fully believe that that can be life threatening in the wrong situation. And that's
absolutely.
Yeah, and it's something we really need to talk more about too when we're talking about mental health and trauma resolution, because it's so, we're fighting this idea, right, that it's in your head, get over it, it's in your head, suck it up, and that's sort of like, to me, that's sort of like the patriarchal response. Like, men are, the patriarchy, male culture is trained not to feel emotions, not to give into emotions unless it's anger or sex, right? So, emotions are the women's purview. Men hold their emotions until they get home to a woman, and then have the emotions on the woman, whether that is fucking or fighting, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's so many ways that mental health issues affect yourself as a person and the people around you. Like, I really think that one of our battles is going to be changing the narrative on that, for sure. Anyway, I didn't mean to go off on the thing.
Oh no, it's relative, and it's also relative to Medicare for all.
Yeah,
I mean, suicides are up, depression's up, things like this. You got, we're in dire circumstances with joblessness, homelessness, and stuff, and you're telling people they have no way to get medication they need, or to see a doctor, or anything like that. It's violence.
Absolutely. People end up on the street for that. They end up on the street. They end up doing street drugs. That causes more crime. I mean, yeah. Sometimes I think that's what they want, so they can fill up the prisons even more. But at the day, you're killing your workers. Where's the? So, yeah, it's it's a very big issue. If you don't have access to medical care, I mean, there are just so many things that could go wrong with your life. Literally, I've had experiences with medical issues as well myself, as well as I've been the caretaker for 3 of my family members who've passed away. And it was always an issue getting things approved with the insurance and everything. And I was lucky that they all had insurance. I personally didn't. When it was time to get my back surgery, after my family members had died, I had back problems for years and years, and it caused me to miss a lot of work. And eventually I had to miss, like, I think it was 3 months, partially because they wouldn't schedule the surgery right away, and partially because I needed to recover. So I just pay the bills. I just didn't pay them. And eventually, I lost my job, and they waited about a year to fire me. So I have to give them that. But I was working at a very small company, and most of the people there were on a work visa. They were immigrants, and I was a citizen, and they were very well aware that I was a citizen. So they tried very, very hard to make me leave instead of actually firing me. But eventually they did fire me because I didn't want to leave. And they yeah, I mean, it was stressful every day. I mean, because you call the the workers comp, and then you don't get through, and then you call every so many times every day, and then you're lucky if you get through like once in a week. I mean, like their Medicare for all would not only solve people who need Medicare, but it also would streamline the the entire process for people. I mean, we need to not have, I mean, it's insane to me that there's an entire insurance industry that is just based on like codes and approving things. And I mean, there's so much bureaucracy that has just been created for this that we could do away with. I mean, that's another thing.
Well, are you familiar with Wendell Potter?
I'm not. No, tell me.
So he was CEO of Cigna health insurance, and he became a whistleblower.
Okay.
And totally called them out, and now he's like a huge Medicare for all supporter.
Awesome.
And he revealed all the ugliness within insurance companies. He grew a conscience, and yeah, I'm really excited. I get to meet him Thursday because there's a documentarian, Kenny Ballantyne, is flying in from Los Angeles to interview us in Philly for his Medicare for All documentary.
Awesome.
So I'm looking forward to that.
I am.
Medicare for all is relative to absolutely every single thing in our lives, be it homelessness because of unpaid medical bills, be it loss of job and not having insurance anymore, be it insured but with horrible insurance, be it parents not being able to get their kids checked out because of lack of insurance. It is literally related to every single part of our lives. Medicare for all would change the world, would change every single person in our nation's lives. Not only would it not give any more medical bills to any of us, it would also relieve that stress and that anxiety and depression that comes with the fact that you can't go to the doctor, or that you have no choice but to go to the doctor and then have to wait for weeks to receive an astronomical bill. What our nation is doing to us right now is violence. There is no other word. When you're holding people hostage and telling them you cannot have this basic human right that Martin Luther King Jr. talked about as the strongest point of violence, as withdrawing healthcare for people, when you cannot guarantee that for them, that is violence. It is systematic violence. And who suffers the most? People of color and the poor. This is absolutely a way to introduce eugenics. They are, they really don't care. There is no empathy in this system. So it is our job to create conscience, to create empathy, to share our stories, and, put a face to these percentages and, statistics. So join us. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.